Seeing Max Verstappen retire in the opening laps will have brought a smile to the face of many an F1 fan. Whether it should have or not is a question some might discuss, but after 18 wins in 19 races, we were all ready to hear something other than the Dutch National Anthem at the podium celebration. Carlos Sainz's incredible return from appendix surgery 2 weeks ago to a race win in Melbourne is one of the great F1 stories, even if he was relatively unchallenged during the race. His almost unhuman ability to overcome such a major surgery in such a short time and triumph after it shows a determination and fighting spirit that Ferrari might have undervalued. Have Ferrari made a mistake letting Sainz go? Or is the underperforming Hamilton able to regain the ability that saw him be the sport's best driver for so many years? Let's check it out. The 2024 F1 season did not get off to the best of starts. The off-track drama of Christian Horner's affair, the FIA under investigation for basically everything, and a return to Max Verstappen leading every lap and winning by 20 seconds wasn't on everyone's wish list for 2024. So seeing Carlos Sainz take the checkered flag 2 weeks after having his appendix out, with the bandages still wrapped around his abdomen, was the feel-good story we all needed. Sainz and his teammate Charles Leclerc, who completed Ferrari's first 1-2 since the opening race of the 2022 season, were the fastest men on track from the first day of practice at Albert Park. And while Verstappen took pole, the feeling among rivals before the Grand Prix was that he was for once not going to have it all his own way. For Max, it will be the most uncertain race for some time, a rival team boss said on Sunday morning. That remark was a reference to the relative pace of the Ferrari and Red Bull, and particularly to Ferrari's apparent advantage in tyre usage. But that never got a chance to play out. Verstappen lost the lead to Sainz midway around the second lap and was out just 2 laps later with his right rear brake on fire. Sainz's victory prevented Verstappen from matching the all-time record he set last year of 10 consecutive wins, a run that started with Sainz's triumph in Singapore last September, when he became the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race in 2023. The 29-year-old Spaniard is now the only man to beat Red Bull in a Grand Prix victory since Mercedes' George Russell won in Brazil on the 13th of November 2022, a quite extraordinary statistic. Sainz is a man with something to prove this season. The Spaniard has been placed as second best of Ferrari since he joined the team in 2021. That was through no fault of his own. Charles Leclerc is the Ferrari career boy. He's like the all-American quarterback of the F1 world. He looks good, he speaks well to the media. Everything just works out for him and everyone applauds him for it. He works just as hard as the rest of the grid, but Sainz could be the best driver in the sport and Leclerc would probably still be the Ferrari #1 driver. The two together at Ferrari have arguably been the strongest lineup in the sport for a few seasons now, but the Scuderia never seemed to appreciate the dependable point scorer they had in Carlos Sainz, publicly at least. Nonetheless, when Lewis Hamilton offers himself to you, it's pretty much impossible to say no, or at least it should be impossible to say no, but more on that later. Leclerc is the career man at Ferrari. He isn't going anywhere, so it's Sainz that has been let go. But in Melbourne, he proved to Ferrari and every team on the grid that he is one of the best the sport has at the moment. The ability to recover from what is a very invasive surgery in such a short time span and then win an F1 race shows the mental strength that makes F1 champions. As Sainz put it, life sometimes is crazy, you know. It's not only the last 2 weeks, it's the whole start of the year in general, how the year started with the news of the non-renewal. Then you get yourself fit, you get yourself ready for the start of the season, pushing flat out. And then you get to the first race in Bahrain. You do a good podium, you say, okay, now the season is starting well and I can keep the momentum going. And suddenly, boom, you're missing a race in Jeddah and the operation. Long days in bed, not knowing if I was going to be back in time. Obviously, a lot of unknowns. Am I going to be back fit? Am I going to be back feeling still good with the car? And then suddenly, you come back and win. So yeah, life is a roller coaster sometimes, and it can be really nice and good to you. He had talked about feeling weird in the car following the operation. He had no pain, he said, but everything in the inside just feels like it's moving more than normal, and you need some confidence to brace the core and the body as you used to before. His return in Australia was the kind of thing we would expect from Max Verstappen, and would say after that it is that ability to perform no matter what that has made him the sport's dominant force over the last 2 years. Yet, when Lance Stroll pulled off something similar by recovering from 2 broken wrists, arguably a much more important part of the body for F1 performance than your appendix, to score big points at the 2023 Bahrain Grand Prix, we perhaps overlooked it slightly. Back to Sainz and Ferrari though. It was a crushing performance from the Scuderia, and while Lando Norris was close to Leclerc late on, a 1-2 finish was never in doubt. No chance of either Ferrari driver pulling a George Russell special when in podium positions. With Verstappen out of the race, it's easy to say that though. While Perez may have struggled for pace, it was suggested that there was a problem with his floor which may have lost him some performance, but Ferrari was still Red Bull fast. Ironically, if Verstappen hadn't retired, the race could have featured an absolute battle at the front for the full race distance. Hamilton will have been watching on from the Mercedes garage with glee, excited for what he might do next season in the car. But should he have been given the position in the first place? "This is the worst start to a season," he said. "It's worse than 2009, I think," in reference to Brawn's dominant sole season and McLaren's rapid downfall. With 21 races to go, Mercedes are arguably the 5th quickest team at this moment in time. For Hamilton, a move to Maranello in 2025 may feel some way away. For now though, he is in a battle to help Mercedes save face before they find themselves behind 2 of their customer teams at the end of the season. Perhaps the biggest possible embarrassment for a Works F1 team, and one that I can't think of happening before. At no point were Mercedes on the pace in Australia. Hamilton qualified 11th while George Russell started 7th. He had beaten his teammate by only 0.059 seconds as they disputed who would be the one to be knocked out at the end of the second qualifying session. Despite the closeness of the 2 drivers, Hamilton is beginning a worrying trend. He is not a man to be beaten in qualifying by his teammate, not at all. Yet this season, Russell was 3rd to Hamilton's 9th in Bahrain, 7th to Hamilton's 8th in Saudi Arabia, but with a large gap of 0.15 seconds. Then in Melbourne, he was 7th to Hamilton's 11th. 3 races isn't proof of anything, but you can all see the pattern developing. After 3 races, Russell leads Hamilton 18 points to 8 in the Drivers' Championship as well, a gap that probably should be a lot bigger. Russell proved with his late exit from the Australian Grand Prix that he probably isn't ever going to be the driver that Lewis has been, but considering Lewis's performances so far this season, Ferrari might be left regretting their decision to let Sainz leave. Mercedes' problem is, they simply don't know what is wrong with their car, something everyone's been saying for 2 years but the team has never admitted to until now. Carlos Sainz, though, has no such issue. He may not be as spectacular as Leclerc, but his triumph in Melbourne will surely be ranked higher than any of Charles's wins if we were making a tier list. At the moment, he will be unemployed when the final checkered flag of the season falls on the 8th of December, but in reality, there is no way he finds himself out of a job. Red Bull boss Christian Horner has confirmed that Carlos Sainz is an option for them for 2025, assuming Sergio Perez doesn't do enough to earn himself a renewal. Even if Red Bull don't go for him, Toto Wolff might be thinking that he got the better end of the swap deal if Sainz can be convinced into a Mercedes car. Though considering the performance of the Mercedes team this season, Sainz should probably avoid them. Sauber is the obvious banker choice for Carlos if nothing else tempts him, and if Alonso decides to go elsewhere, Lawrence Stroll would be willing to write a very big check to secure the Spaniard's services. We'll have to wait to see Hamilton in a Ferrari to find out if he can still shine as brightly as the record-breaking, multi-season dominating, omnipotent monster he was for Mercedes what seems like an age ago. But Carlos Sainz is certainly proving that letting him leave is a mistake Ferrari might grow to regret. What did you think of Carlos's performance in Australia? And given the choice, would you still take Hamilton over him if you had an F1 team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.